Welcome back to the WCS America Season 1 Finals. Beautiful, scenic New York City skyline behind our players as they are vying, well, Snute and Alicia are vying for the 5th and final spot to Korea for the Season 1 Final.
You know, Ben, for the previous 2 days, I feel really silly because I always thought that we were looking at the Empire State Building, and I even said to someone else, like, hey, the Empire State Building really doesn't look that tall from here. Then I realized it's the Chrysler Building. I was like,
Okay, I think that's a mistake that probably 99.9% of Americans would make. You're off the hook on this one.
all right. It's never going to happen to me again, though, Ben.
Our second game is going to be on Neo Planet S.
And that's really cool, Ben, because in my opinion, the most fun game that we got to cast yesterday was Snute against Crank on Neo Planet S. And above all, because he was so cost effective as a Zerg. Now, Zerg is the race where most of the time you see people just swarm their opponent with units and eventually have that 5,000 minerals bank and then just keep sending in units up to a certain point. Snute was working for so long with so little, but he did it so extremely well.
Yeah, it all worked out, ultimately winning with Broodlords.
Yeah.
In a metagame that we haven't seen much Broodlord use in, to be completely honest. So let's go ahead and introduce our players. Down in the bottom left-hand corner of Planet S, Neo Planet S, I should say, the red Zerg player. Down 0-1, Liquid Snute. Whoosh. That zoom in on the hatchery.
Already has a couple of teammates qualified, of course, for the WCS Grand Finals. We can talk about that after you introduce. I love the Broodlords.
That's right, up in the top right-hand corner, Snute's opponent looked pretty good on Belshire Vestige. It is Axiom Alicia.
As of course Hero, who secured his ticket to the semi-final of WCS America yesterday, qualified for the Season 1 Finals as well. But of course we had TLO qualifying, the Zerg brother of Snute. TLO who played absolutely fantastic throughout WCS Season 1 in Europe.
That's right. Ilias Stefano also qualified, another European Zerg.
Yeah.
That will be
Representing a different blue though.
indeed. but they are EGTL brothers
That is true.
in that regard.
Talking about EGTL, we of course have Alive and Revival already qualifying from this tournament as well. It's been a pretty good run so far for EG.
There's a lot of foreign team representation in the
Millennium of course has
Grand
4GG. Dima is going to represent someone, perhaps we'll see.
when is that announcement going to drop? I'm very curious about Dimaga's new team. I'm excited to find out who it is.
Dima deserves nothing but the best.
Dimaga's probably going to be sponsored by like Grey Goose or something.
No, by Gazprom. Like some big Russian oil company. My god.
Dimaga will be sponsored by the KGB.
Alicia is going to go once more for the in-base gateway, and he's going to drop both simulators as well before doing anything else. So this means that Snute is going to have to be a little careful early on. New Planet S is definitely one of those most gateway or like early aggression gateway friendly maps. The map isn't all that huge. There are a couple of spots to hide a pylon here and there.
That's right. And perhaps most importantly, there is no easy third base on Neo Planet S, which means that you can often take difficult angles of attack on your opponent, no matter what race you play or what spawn position you get.
Like for instance, the game that we just saw in Belshire Vestige, there was a certain point in the game, like Alicia didn't wait for a very long time to go up to 3 bases. Certainly not for a player who opened up, not with a Forge Fast Expand or even a Nexus first, but with an in-base gateway, and then went Stargate units. He still dropped the Nexus around the 9-minute mark when he only had 3 sentries. If you do that on Neo Planet S, guys, it's going to be a lot more dicey to keep that base alive if the Zerg player decides to make a crazy amount of Zerglings.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Snute is once again getting that early gas so that he can get that early Zergling speed and sort of keep himself safe early on. I will say on Belshire, we saw Snute try a couple of aggressive options early. He committed quite a few resources into Zerglings that he wanted to break the front with, but he wasn't actually able to do any damage. So I suspect that this time he'll make those lings that he needs for safety and map control, but I don't think we're going to see him make those extra lings.
But I think that first 12 links he made on Belshire, which forced those defensive sentries, I think that actually worked out for him quite okay, because if those would have been 3 additional Zealots on the left side of the map, he would have to start fighting 6 Zealots and a Mothership Core, and now he only lost 2 drones, but how much do you think he would have lost if there was 6 Zealots?
It would have been a much more difficult hold. You are right about that. Overlord Sacrifice heading right towards the Stargate of Alicia. Good game senses here.
That is hardly a surprise anymore though, as Team Axiom just lost Void Race. I think that Total Biscuit is going to try to do something creative with Void Race real soon in the team logo.
You know, Total Biscuit was the first caster to get Grandmaster in Heart of the Swarm. I think he's onto something, Kev.
That's right. John is way out of the meta.
Perhaps passing his knowledge on to his players as we see the pylon blocks at third base. This shouldn't something that should bother Snute. He'll be able to easily deal with that with a couple of links.
And instead, he's going to send the Mothership Core over here. He's going to try to pick up that drone, but the drone should be a little bit too quick for the Mothership Core. Or, actually,
oh, that's so annoying.
that was quite a nice movement as well by Alicia.
Yeah, delaying the third base for a long time. Oh, and he's even going to warp in a Zealot. Alicia is serious about messing with Snute's early game.
Man, I really love this. This is so simple, but this is delaying that third hatch by so long already.
And Snute is already changing gears dramatically. Roach Warren going down 20 Zerglings in production. Alicia may have inadvertently forced Snute all in here.
18 links in production. That's a crazy amount of links indeed. How many cannons do we have in the natural? There's not a single cannon out there right now though, Ben. Yes, we have that Mothership Core lurking around, but if he's gonna wait for 2-3 Phoenixes, well, meanwhile, this Zealot is just ravaging. Man,
he
Alicia
just keeps warping in Zealots one at a time. He's not going to warp in anymore, as I think it's pretty obvious that there are enough Zerglings here to deal with it. Roach Warren finishing up. Snute's got enough gas for about 5-6 Roaches.
And now we immediately see the robotics facility going down as well. Alicia perhaps a little bit worried about what he's eventually going to face. I mean, what Alicia did say right now to himself is like, all right, I forced out a ton of links, but this also means I'm going to have to be also careful about taking my third base. There's no way you can take it with 3 sentries. Absolutely impossible.
And Snute not going to be doing anything crazy after all. He has started his lair. He's back to droning, so he has these links out on the map. As we can see, not able to do much with them.
But indirectly, he's doing a little bit of damage with them. But man, I loved how Alicia did that. A single pylon, then having that Mothership Core on the south side of the map, sniping that one drone. That's really cute, and I haven't seen it yet, Ben.
I mean, Snute's third base went down at like the 8-minute mark, which is terribly late. Terribly late. So it's certainly an uncomfortable position to be in for Snute.
You can see
a couple more overlords of these Phoenixes.
And not just that, Ben, you can see this Snute's macro as well. I don't think that Snute normally in this phase of game would have 900 minerals, 400 gas. I guess he's just kind of thrown off a little bit. As you pointed out as well, lost a couple of overlords here and there. Right now producing 4 overlords at once because he's quite heavily supplied block.
Yeah, some very annoying and effective harass here from Alicia. So robotics bay going down. So this is going to turn into just to a straight up 2-base Colossus
this
push.
might be that. Is he going to make one Immortal as well?
Yep.
You know, there is that push that SOS did against Sorky in the final game of the GSL semifinals. It's actually a push that I've been trying quite a bit myself, where most of the time they will make 2 Immortals. It might just be 1 Immortal, facing the links only. Then as soon as he has 1 Colossus, he's probably going to move out already, but he will eventually make 2 Colossus, and then just a lot of gateways. How many probes do we have? Now, he has too many probes for that though, man. For that 2-base all-in, he has way too many probes.
He's up to 54.
Yeah.
Really makes it look like he might want to be taking a third base. Yep. Colossus is on the way, extended thermal lance is on the way. Snute, meanwhile, is getting his Hydra Den down, which is going to play right into the hand of Alicia's Colossi.
Snute hasn't scouted the main base of Alicia for quite a while. He did see that robotics facility early on, but doesn't know about the robotics bay yet. Meanwhile, these Phoenixes are doing a really good job. So far, units lost in this game, 26 for Snute, only 4 for Alicia, 1,400 resources compared to 400. So we can see that those Phoenixes have been very cost effective.
Roaches and Hydras on the way for Snute. Snute's economy is very threadbare, to say the least, working on less than 60 drones right now. A similar game to what we saw against Crank in that regard.
Yep. To see Alicia right now dropping that base on the 11-minute mark. Now that's actually more than fine with the way that this game has played out, because he has delayed Snute's economy for oh so long. Normally an 11-minute third base for Protoss is a little late if absolutely nothing has happened in the game, but plenty has happened. Alicia has been very effective. Colossus was a little bit out of position while these Roaches are going to try to engage, but there's just no way. Wow, that's a massive force switch as well by Alicia.
Yeah, cutting off a lot of that army.
Man, Alicia is playing a flawless game so far on New Planet S. I'm actually kind of blown away, but everything he has done from start to finish came down to razor-thin timings, but everything works out.
Yeah, poor Roach. Flipping through the air, getting zapped by Phoenixes.
This is some really, really solid play from Alicia. I'm very impressed.
I'm not really seeing any holes in his play, Kevin. It's not that Snute's making mistakes. It's that Alicia is
one step ahead. That pylon, that Mothership Core, that just started everything that we're seeing right now. Everything in the last 3-4 minutes has been a chain reaction to that single pylon delaying that third base.
The pressure constantly forcing Snute into uncomfortable positions. We just saw him making 7 overlords at once because these Phoenixes are just everywhere. Denying all sorts of vision, picking off overlords, picking off queens, picking off drones.
I mean, Snute is on 82 drones right now. He did go up to Hive already. We have 5 Vipers in production, but with those 4 Phoenixes on the map, he's still going to have to be a little bit careful keeping those Vipers alive. Of course, he has a few Hydras, but not all that many. He only has 4 right now.
Something else that is critical, this is not a 4-base Zerg, this is a 3-base Zerg. Snute does not have the luxury of a big reload. He has 1 army.
But that's what he had yesterday against Crank as well, though. He wasn't 3-base for an extremely long time. So he knows how to make Zerg units pay for himself. He's on 174 supply right now, so he's still, you know, he's far from out of this. Don't get us wrong, guys. But so far, Alicia has been playing a closely focused game.
Single Hydra gets a little bit overeager and pays the price. Phoenix is lifting that up and dealing with it.
That Hydra was just an overachiever, man. He once upon a time heard the tale of the Mr. Bitter Hydra.
The Mr. Bitter Hydra. Every Hydra I've ever built has been killed by Colossi. That's not a very exciting tale.
181 supply against 135, so supply-wise it looks good for Snute, but still I have a really hard time imagining how he's going to get a really good engagement. We have 3 High Templars already. Snute told us some interesting things about High Templars as well this morning in the matchup, where he says that in his opinion, Protoss, even after they feedback, they shouldn't be too trigger-heavy, morphing them into Archons. He thinks it's better for Protoss to just keep them alive and let them regenerate energy, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Here we go. Snute wants to pick a fight. He's going to need some very good abducts. Vipers are going to come forward. He's got to watch out for the Phoenixes. They're in a great position, and awesome feedbacks going down on a couple of those Vipers. Finally, 2 Colossi will be abducted, but neither of them dying. A third abduct goes down. A single Colossus does fall. One of his buddies going down shortly thereafter, and 1 more abduct.
Well, that was a really good abduct. Right now there's only an Immortal left as really powerful Protoss units, but there are a couple of cannons. He could potentially use Photon Overcharge real soon. He doesn't have the energy for it yet.
Kill the Mothership Core.
Man,
the Mothership Core will fall.
Snute is actually doing this extremely well.
He is barely winning this fight, and he is trying to crash this ramp.
Colossus.
Oh, Colossus, what are you doing? He's going to have to retreat with great haste. Snute will pull back after doing some good damage. 160 Zerg supply over 100 Protoss supply.
Man, with only those 2 Vipers remaining after the first initial feedbacks went down, I had a hard time imagining this ever being a good fight for Snute, but those remaining adubs were superb, and he picked off those Colossus immediately all at the same time. And suddenly that Protoss army wasn't all that strong anymore.
It started a little rocky, but Snute did stick with it and turned it around. Alicia reinforcing with more and more High Templar.
Ooh, but he's so low on gas right now, Ben. It's only 54 supply for Alicia against 117 for Snute. Snute showing us that he really knows how to make Roach Hydra Viper work. Man, this is actually quite bizarre as well, because this game didn't really look all that amazing for Snute.
And suddenly Snute has secured a 4th and a 5th base. Alicia also taking his 4th right now. And of course, our Zerg player is going to want to do something about that if he can, and he is once more moving out. Observer in a great spot sees this.
Only 2 Colossus, but there are only 3 Vipers on the map right now as well. And there are 5 High Templars. We do have Storms as well this time, but still he's going to need to keep those Colossus alive.
Those are pretty good Storms, doing a lot of damage. A 3rd excellent Storm going down on the brunt of this Zerg army. Vipers did not use any of their energy yet. Will we see some abducts? Yes, we do see at least 1 good abduct, and a single Colossus falls. 2nd Colossus is going to get picked off as well. A 3rd Colossus rallied very poorly, is going to retreat to the high ground of the main base, but not before taking a ton of damage, and Snute has breached Alicia's 3rd.
A crazy amount of Roaches and Hydras right now over here. So Alicia perhaps is going a little too happy on the attack, spending all his gas on all those expensive units. And as soon as those Colossus die, the remaining units were just not that strong. GG is called, and Snute wins. Game number 2 after really not having a great opening at all.
Man, that was an incredibly impressive win there for Snute. Evens up the series at 1 each. And I thought he was so dead that game.
Snute once more just showing how cost effective he can be with this Roach Hydra Viper composition. And you know what I really love, Ben? If you look at the engagement, Snute's take, often you see Protoss players immediately sending in the Vipers, trying to get those abducts immediately. He kind of keeps the Vipers in the back for a little while, hoping that the High Templars either die or use their energy on Storms. And then he brings in those... we can see that right now, like he keeps the Vipers quite far. Okay, this was the first engagement, which went really well for him as well. This wasn't the second one.
But he knows that those High Templar are the big threat, and that if he can keep the Vipers safe from the feedbacks and maybe absorb some Storms, that it's okay, because taking out the Colossi means that he's taking out the Protoss's ability to actually deal with these swarms of Zerg units that he's throwing at his opponent. Excellent play there from Snute.
Snute loves them Roach Hydra Viper, and he's making it work, even when his economy was really weakened for quite a while.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely awesome, guys. We're going to head into a short break. WCS America Season 1 Finals will continue after this.